Hello, everyone. I'm Hershkowitz, and welcome to Finding Finance, the podcast where we delve into the different subfields of finance. This podcast aims to help high schoolers who are contemplating a career in finance understand the different paths in the world of finance and help them find which path interests them the most. Our esteemed guest today is Louis Hershkowitz. Mr. Hershkowitz is the president and CEO of Big Geyser Inc., which is one of the largest independent non-alcoholic beverage distributions in the Northeast and the largest in New York. Founded in 1986 by Mr. Hershkowitz's late father, it has represented some of the largest brands in the world, such as Coca-Cola, Nestle, Campbell, Monster, and Hormel. Over the years, Big Geyser has identified and built brands such as Essentia, Core, Body Armor, Honest Tea, Zico, and Vitamin Water into the behemoths that they are today. They are also the founder of the famous snack and beverage brand, Hal's New York. I'm very excited regarding today's interview with Mr. Hershkowitz, since this is the first time we're dwelling into the field of entrepreneurship. I hope you enjoy our conversation with Mr. Hershkowitz. Mr. Hershkowitz, thank you for joining us today. It is a pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for being here. This is my first podcast, so this is an exciting time for me as well, and I'm looking forward to it works. But it seems very cool so far, and just enjoying it. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm so glad you could join us here today. Let's start at the very beginning. Take me all the way back to your upbringing and give us insight as to what your life like was when you were younger. Where did you grow up? What were your favorite subjects in school? And what were some of your hobbies?
So good questions all around. I was raised in Manhattan. That's where my mother was pregnant with me. Moved into Manhattan, grew up Upper East Side. My father worked very hard as a commission liquor salesman. He was very successful in that business, built a lot of the famous alcoholic brands that we know today. And my mother was a bookkeeper. And together, it's an interesting combination. I have a little bit of a salesman in me, bookkeeper in me. And sometimes during the day, I think about that. When I'm really selling, I can see my father and hear my father. And when I'm looking at the numbers or looking at things like that, I can just sense my mom's personality more than my dad's. So I am in a big mix. As far as school, I was never a good student. I'm going to tell everyone that. It definitely was not something that I was excelling in. I was always that kid that wanted to figure out how to make money. I always was that kid that liked to work. I loved work. I still do love work. I love the action. I love it. To me, it's the best hobby in the world. I did like sports as a kid, and I played street hockey, and I played baseball, and I played lacrosse. Never really great at any of them, but I could hold my own. But I was the kid that loved work. I tried to work as much as I can. When my father started the business Big Geyser back in 1986, I was a teenager, and any chance I had to go into the office, to be on the trucks, to go out and try to sell, I would take any time I could to try to do that. I just love the action.
That's great. Getting involved in your father's business must have prepared you really well.
Yeah, I mean, it's really all I know. It's the only job I've ever had of any consequence. And I just love it. I love the action. I love building the brands. I laugh at sometimes, people are like, have you heard of this new brand? And I'm thinking it's not that new because it takes time and it takes a lot of patience and effort to brand. And we've been so successful with some of the greatest brands in the non-alcoholic beverage business. We sold the first bottle of vitamin water. We sold the first bottle of the Nantucket Nectars in New York. We sold the first bottle of Body Armor. The first brand that we sold that really took off was a brand called Mystic many years ago. This was back in the 80s. It was in a wine cooler shaped bottle, and it really let our company get established and get known throughout the industry as a brand builder. And still see Mystic once in a while. We don't distribute. We haven't distributed in over 20 years, but it's still fun to see it once in a blue moon.
That's great, being familiar with such great brands. After graduating from Johnson Wales University, you joined your family's company. So, what made you want to join your family's business?
I knew what I was going to be doing well before I went to school. It was Johnson Wales is known for a food and beverage, hotel, restaurant, and culinary school. I mean, they do plenty of other great majors as well, but that's what I knew them for, and that's what I think their biggest reputation was. I just felt like I needed to go to college, and I felt like I wanted to do something related, and that made sense to me. So my degree's in food and beverage management, and I spent some time in the culinary school, and I spent some time in management school. But the truth is that from the moment I got there, all I wanted to do was get back to Queens from Rhode Island and to get to work. Actually, it was Brooklyn back then, but I forgot. I'm dating myself. But our warehouse was in Brooklyn back then. And that's what I did. I graduated college on a Thursday and I started Monday at the office. And that was a little over 30 years ago.
You finished college Thursday and started straight on Monday.
I left college on Thursday. I didn't even stay for graduation, and I started work on Monday. That's all I wanted to do. From the moment I got there, it was my eyes were set on starting work. I was just that kid, and to this day, I still am in a lot of ways. But that's what I wanted to do. I love the action. I love the trucks. I love the drivers. I love the sales. I love building the brands. I love seeing things getting built in front of me. It's very satisfying.
Hmm. Speaking about work, what was your first job there and what did that entail?
It's a funny story. My father, who started the business, was, like I mentioned, a commission salesman. And he never wanted anything to do with running the business. He only wanted to be out in the street selling and building brands. That's what he did in the liquor business. That's what he did in the big Geyser non-alcoholic business up until the day he passed away. It was that was what he wanted to do. He never had a desk and he never had a chair in all the years we had a business. He didn't want any part of it. He always brought in people to run the business side of things so he could go out and build the brands. Whether it was good or bad, when I was 19 years old, basically I was put in charge. And I've had to learn things. I've made every mistake 2 or 3 times. I wish I learned the first time to not make the mistakes. But basically, from the time I was 19 years old, I've been put in charge of it and learned a lot over the last 30 years. And when I look back, I sometimes laugh at myself. But for good or bad, that's what it was. I was making the decisions from the first day.
Some big shoes to fill.
Yes, some interesting shoes to fill sometimes too.
Well, so now you are the CEO and president of Big Geyser. When did you become CEO and what were some of your first challenges and successes as CEO?
I don't even know the answer as to when I actually took on the title of CEO. If I had to guess at this point, it was a little over 10 years ago, but it could have been longer. I've always functioned as that role, whether I have that title or not. So that's why the title really means very little to me because I was functioning as that. The challenges that I've faced over the years really started the first day I was, hired or started. Listen, running a business in New York, it's very challenging. There's no easy way to do things. There's no magic. There's no. We were pioneering the non-alcoholic beverage distribution business. There was soda, the Coca-Colas of the world, Pepsi Colas of the world, but nobody had ever pioneered this new age non-alcoholic distribution business on the level that we're talking about in New York. And New York is a very challenging environment. It's changed over the years. 30 years ago was a lot more of the mom and pop and the bodega and really the local neighborhood stores. Now it's become much more chain driven, so it has changed the dynamic of what we do and how we build brands. But nonetheless, its challenges are the daily challenges. You're dealing with plenty of employees, a lot of great employees, but sometimes there's challenges there. You're dealing with suppliers and their needs and their wants, and you have to always try to find the happy medium between us as a distributor and what makes sense for them as a supplier. And running a business. I mean, the government doesn't make necessarily things easy in New York. They certainly, I think they want to be a good partner. I'm not even sure they know really how to be a good partner. And it makes it, every day is just an interesting adventure, but I love it.
Very dynamic field.
I think every field's probably dynamic, but when you deal with people and personalities and customers, every day is it's an adventure.
Well, Big Geyser now bolsters a wide variety of famous brands. What brands did you help build during your tenure?
So, like you said before, some of the brands that we were either the first one to distribute or were involved in their success was Mystic, was Vitamin Water, was Nantucket Nectars, Honest Tea, Zico. At one point, distributing a brand called Monster Energy. Now we are distributors for Celsius Energy, and we do an item called Poppy, and we do Sparkling Ice. So we do a wide range of brands, and if I sat here for another few minutes, I could think of all the other brands that we've been involved with, and I'm sure I'm missing some. But, we did Crystal Geyser water, we did Essentia water. Years ago, we used to sell Pellegrino and Perrier. So the brands definitely come and the brands go. That's just the nature of the business, whether they get bought by a larger company and they change the distribution system. But things happen, things change. And then we decided 10 years ago to come out with our own brand called House New York, which is a seltzer brand and a potato chip brand.
I see. And how did you help grow these brands?
We did what we do best, which is build them in New York. We have the relationships. As I mentioned, we've been doing this since 1986. I'm doing this now full time since 94. We've learned the secret to New York, and that's really what we focus on. We have never expanded out of the New York market. We cover the 5 boroughs, Nassau, Suffolk, and Westchester. We cover every square inch of that territory. So if it's a corner store that needs an order, or if it's a large big box store or a wholesaler that needs tractor trailers, we deliver tractor trailers all day long. We have vans, we have beverage body trucks, we have tractor trailers, and we deliver everything. So as long as you can spend $350 or $300 as our minimum delivery, we will deliver it to you the next day. And if you need a tractor trailer the next day, we'll get you a tractor trailer the next day. We maintain 2 very large warehouses, a very large sales force, a very large merchandising force. We have specialists that handle food service accounts, specialists that handle chain accounts. But the key word is relationship. We have relationship with these buyers, from these corner delis to these bagel stores to the large big box stores to the food services. That's what we really aim to always remember. The brands will come and go. The relationships are here to stay.
Lesson takeaway: the lasting relationships. When a brand pitches to you, what do you look for in the brand to decide you will work with?
It's a great question. Brands come to us probably on a daily basis. Multiple times a week, we get different brands and beverages, snacks, and sometimes we get categories that are truly nothing we distribute, but they still want us to look at the brands. There is no exact formula. It is our needs at the time. Do we feel that the category is correct? We can change things or ask the suppliers to change certain things if we need a specific flavor or we need a specific size. Those are the easy things. It's does this fill a void for our portfolio? Let's start with that. Where do we see this going? And then, as we always like to say, sometimes you have to bet the jockey and not the horse. So who is running the show there? They may not have the perfect item today, but if we have belief in the people that are operating and owning and funding this brand, then we can work with them and we can change. And brands will change over time. That's never not happened. Every successful brand we've ever distributed, the label changes, the name sometimes changes, the color changes, the size of the packaging changes, the formula changes, but the people at the end of the day don't. And if you sometimes have to bet that jockey and not bet the horse, and the horse can change, but that jockey is the one that you look at over time and say, look at that track record. Look what they've been able to accomplish. So it is a little bit of a combination. Are we interested in the category? That's a good start. Do we feel like the category has some upside potential? That's a good start too. But who's behind it? And sometimes, it's people from our past circle back, which is happening right now with a brand called Poppy. The head of the company is an old friend of ours from Vitamin Water. And he called up and he said, I just invested in a brand. In fact, it was on Shark Tank, and he was the Rohan is the gentleman's name. And he decided to invest in this brand. And he called us up and he said, I just invested in this brand on Shark Tank and I'd like to show it to you. And we said, there's nothing to show to us. We're in. We'll take it. And just like that, because we know him. And whether the brand was right that moment, I don't know. It actually wasn't, because they changed the name, they changed the packaging, they changed the vessel, everything. But we know him and we know he knows what he has to do. And if he saw something in this brand that made sense, then it's going to make sense. And sure enough, it's one of the biggest brands we distribute today.
So speaking about the person behind the brand, what are some of the key characteristics that you like to see within these founders?
Honesty. Let's start right then and there. We need someone that we can have an honest conversation with. Things are going to come up that are not always pleasant. But if you can't have an honest conversation with the person, you're never going to be able to have a relationship with them. You're not always going to agree. That's okay. But you have to have an honest conversation. Hard work, integrity, honesty, Obviously, funding is a very big piece of that conversation also, because if they don't have the funds, this is a very expensive business. You're not going to be able to get anywhere. But at the end of the day, the relationship has to be built on honesty, transparency, and again, there's going to be uncomfortable conversations. I've never not had that happen, but you have to be able to have that honest conversation, agree to disagree sometimes, and figure out a solution. And we have so many great suppliers that I'm thinking of as I'm sitting here that we have those relationships with.
Yeah, I think without honesty, you can't really get anywhere.
You can. You can. Not in, I don't think anywhere in life.
Mm.
I think at the end of the day, if there isn't honesty, whether it's a friendship or anything else, it's going to be a challenge. But in business, and when you talk about people coming in and out of your life in business, and in the beverage business for sure, there's a gazillion people that have come in and out over the years with multiple brands and multiple ideas, and but there are people that are allowed in our building, and or we want to be a part of our company on the supplier side because we just have that great relationship with them. And as I'm sitting here, I think of so many great folks that we've met over the years.
It's great. And does Big Geyser only distribute food and beverages?
Yes, we only distribute food and beverages. Primarily, we are non-alcoholic beverage distributors. We do handle a few snack brands when when it makes sense and the category makes sense, and we feel it's a good fit for our portfolio. But the vast majority of what we do are non-alcoholic beverages.
So, speaking about the snack brands, most might not know, but you and your brother founded Hal's New York. What made you want to start Hal's New York?
So back in 2014, our father passed away in 2011, and back in 2014, we realized we had a void in our portfolio, a seltzer void, and as silly as it sounds, we weren't able to make a deal or find the right partner for a seltzer brand in New York, and seltzer is a major category in New York. So we had toyed with the idea of coming out with our own brand under the Hal's name. Actually, it wasn't even the Hal's name when we first started talking about it, but after our father passed away, we kind of liked the idea. And we said, you know what, we're going to give it a shot. And let's say we made every mistake you can make, but we recovered and we figured it out. And to this day now, Hal's is growing leaps and bounds. We are doing tremendous with it. It is a very successful brand, especially in the New York area. And this is almost 10 years, a little over 10 years later, and we're just loving it. And we just came out with new cans, and we came out with 1 liters, and we are just having a lot of fun now. We've kind of found our rhythm and our groove, and we're doing that. And then a few years back, we were selling a different brand of potato chips that was acquired, and they in turn chose to make an offer to buy back our distribution rights for that chip. And we decided that we still needed a chip in our portfolio. And after some thought and investigation, or maybe a lot of investigation, we decided to add potato chips, kettle chips, popcorn, and pretzels under the Hal's New York name to our portfolio.
I'm so sorry to hear about your father. But I
Thank you.
do love your chips, I must say. My favorite flavor is sour cream and onion.
That's a good one. Yes, I love our chips. I think maybe sometimes too much, but it is fun to test the new flavors and to get opinions. And we definitely always want to make sure that we keep in mind that our father's nickname, it's actually his nickname, Hal, is on the brand. So anything we make, we always want to make sure that he'd be proud of it and he would have enjoyed it.
Oh, that's great. And how did you make Hal's differentiate itself from other snack and beverage companies?
So we always try to, almost like I just said, we always try to think about what our father would want his name on, and he'd be so proud of it. But we always want to keep in mind the quality of the ingredients that we're putting in there. We want to make sure the quality of the packaging is the right packaging. And, our father liked to make sure everything was top notch. And we always want to make sure that we continue with that theme with everything we do, whether it's the bag the potato chips are in, whether it's the type of potatoes we use, the quality of the seasoning, or in the beverages, we want to make sure that the flavoring, the packaging, again, everything has to be done the right way or we're not going to do it.
That's a fantastic basis to go off of. When you started Hal's, were there any challenges you came across? If so, what were those challenges and how did you solve them?
So we've always been in the distribution business, not the supplier business. So yes, we made every mistake that's known to man. We had to change our bottle, change our caps, change our label, had to find different sources for our flavoring. We've partnered with now 2 or 3 different bottlers because as we've outgrown their capabilities or just found better partners to work with, We've done that. So it is constant. I mean, thankfully, at this point, we've really gotten things down to a good science. I mean, keep in mind when you first start a new item, you come out with flavors, and some of the flavors do really well, and some of them may not do well. So we had to make those decisions early on and say this makes sense and this doesn't make sense. But those are the growing pains of any business. And I think at this point, finally, after the first few years, we've always every year we've improved, and I think we're in a really great place right now with our supply, with our packers and our suppliers for the raw materials and our sales force. And I think that most importantly, I think more and more people, especially in the market, really know the brand and have come to understand it to mean quality, and they know what to expect.
So, speaking about that, how did you grow Hal's into the brand it is today, where so many New Yorkers adore it?
It's time. Again, we were able to put it on the right stores' shelves, and we have the relationship with the stores. Listening to feedback, we get a good amount of emails and communication from our consumers about what they want and what they don't want. And we really do try to take the time and listen to each and every one of them. And for example, when we first came out with the jalapeno chips, we were getting feedback that they were way too hot. And then, a few people were saying how much they love them, but we got a few comments of hot, the spice was, a little too much. So we decided we weren't going to change the spice because people that like jalapeno, that's what they want. So as a funny little answer, maybe it took me about half a second, I said, listen, put on the bag hot, 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 and put it in a red circle. And this way, if somebody buys it and they say it's too hot, it's their own fault. And we were all laughed about it. But meanwhile, we did that many years ago. We never got a complaint again about them being too hot. So I still laughed at my little red circle on the bag solved the issue, or at least made people not have call and let us know that they were too hot. But that's our little fun. You know what? We truly try to make it on the right shelf at the right price and give people a great quality product for a great price.
It's a neat solution, and it's great gathering everyone else's input to further improve the brand. I know the world of business is filled with success stories. Can you tell me about one of your most exciting business initiatives?
I think probably our most exciting, or one of the ones that comes to mind quickly, is when we decided to get into snack foods. Again, we did beverages for many, many years, and one day, I realized that the snack food business had changed the same way the beverage business did, with a lot better for you snacks and better for you packaging, packaging that lasted with a better expiration date, things like that. And I went to my father and I said, I want to get into the snack food business. And he said to me, Louis, what do you know about crackers? And I said, I don't know anything about crackers. I don't want to sell crackers. He goes, you know what I mean. I said, no, I want to sell potato chips. And he said, Louis, we don't know anything about crackers. I said, why do you keep calling them crackers? So to this day, I really am not sure why he called them crackers, but that's what he called them. And I said, I think I have a plan here. I think that we can add this to our portfolio, and I think it's going to make sense and give our team another shelf to go after in the stores. And he looked at me and he goes, I don't know what you see here. He goes, but do what you want, which was a very common answer for him. He never told me no, in the sense of, you want to try something, don't ever be afraid to try something. That was a very important lesson that I take with me today. Don't be afraid to try. And he goes, do what you want. And so we took in the potato chip brand back then, a brand that's still around today. And we started selling it, and the numbers really took off very quickly. And I remember it was not that long after we took it in, he looked at me, he goes, those crackers are selling pretty good. And I said to him, he goes, that was a good call. And I love that from as being a son and being acknowledged and being complimented, but also a chance. And we took a chance on a category, and we can do it. And now the potato chips that we sell under the Hal's New York brand are one of the biggest items we distribute in all of our portfolio.
That's fantastic to see your vision come to fruition with that much success. What about a business initiative that made you learn a life lesson?
I don't think I can repeat most of those things on a podcast. That'd be like evidence. No, in all seriousness, I wouldn't even know where to begin with that kind of a question. That's what we do every day, and it's just learning every day. and just trying to be the best we can be with our employees and with our suppliers and with our customers. But there's initiatives we do every single day. Some of them work out, thankfully, more work than don't. And I think that's been allowing us to continue to grow.
That's great to hear. Now, besides work, how do you spend your free time? What are some of your favorite hobbies nowadays?
What free time? You know what? I love what I do. I couldn't even tell you, what hours I work or things like that. I always laugh when someone asks me those questions. My phone is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The only time my phone is not on is when I'm on an airplane, and that's not that often either. Our warehouses are open, our businesses out there, our customers are open, and my phone is on 24/7. I don't look at this as work. I have a job. I love what I do. Podcast, I'm going to a grocery store, pick up a few things, and lost in an aisle for 10 or 15 minutes, just walking around and looking at how we look, how the competition looks. This is my life. This is my hobby. This is my fun. I really do enjoy it. I mean, I get to play with juices and teas and waters all day long. It's not that bad. And other than that, it's really just about my kids and loving them and having a great time with them, and doing things with them to just try to make their days special. And I think they like the business too. I think they like to have some fun with our stuff too. And I get orders every other day of what to bring home for them to drink. So we also are our sampling team. Whenever we take on a new item or a new flavor or house, and they're part of my focus group.
I guess you have another team at home as well.
That's
team running 24/7.
That's my team at home, and that's my focus group at home. I go, try this, try that, And funny enough, my daughter actually called Poppy, being as successful as it is from the get go. She probably tried it one of the first days, and she goes, "Dad, they're going to figure this out. This is going to be huge," and she was right.
That's some good foresight.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
So now for the question I ask every guest on my podcast. For kids in high school and college looking to enter the world of business, what advice would you have for them?
I think it's going to be a little bit of a standard message, and probably nothing that they haven't heard before, but I hope they hear it, and really listen to the words. Whatever you do, give 100%. I don't care what it is that you're doing, just give 100%. If it's sports, give 100%. If it's any other hobbies, if it's schoolwork, if you're in the class, whether you like the class or not, you give 100%. You don't have to do it for the rest of your life if you don't want to, but whatever you're doing, give 100% at that moment. That's very important. And when you do it honestly, do it respectfully. At the end of the day, people they may not remember exactly the details of the situation, but they will always remember the honesty. They'll always remember the transparency and respectability. And that's what I would always recommend. I recommend that to my own kids. I recommend that to my own team at the office. Just be straight with people and call them back. Don't ignore things. Problems don't go away. There are always going to be problems. And there are going to be things that are difficult. That's okay. And you don't have to know every answer. But you can't run from things, and you have to treat people with respect and with honesty. That, at the end of the day, you will win more than you will lose.
Well, thank you for taking us into the world of Big Geyser and House. I really appreciate you being a guest on the podcast today.
It's been truly my pleasure. It's great to see you. And now I can say that I've done a podcast, and I can't wait to hear this live.
So glad that ours was the first one.
You got it. You're the first.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks. Bye.